Morning, everyone.
Morning.
We're having some technical assistance with the atmosphere. So I'm going to begin this morning. I'm Reverend June Clark, and welcome everyone here in the sanctuary and on Zoom. And it is the first of a brand new month. So we have been pretty consistent lately with reading what we believe as the start for our new month. And if Chris, would you hand me that one? Thank you. So I am going to do that this morning, and it is our declaration of principles. And I'm going to read the first principle. If you read along with me, if you're at home, I will read it slowly. I will pause. Here in the sanctuary, we will repeat what I have read, and you at home just read along, and if you choose to repeat, you may. I believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. I'll stop there and then we'll read those first two lines together here in the sanctuary. I believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. Let's all just read together. I think it'll go faster. Okay. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. I believe in the incarnation of spirit in man, and that all men are incarnations of the one spirit. I believe in the internality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. I believe that the kingdom of heaven is within myself, and that I experience this kingdom to the degree that I become conscious of it. I believe the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete manifestation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. I believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. I believe that God is personal to all who feel the indwelling presence. I believe in the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature of man, and that any man may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. I believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. I believe in the healing of the sick through the power of this mind. I believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind. I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. I believe in my own soul, my own spirit, and my own destiny, for I understand that the life of man is God. So it is. By our founder, Ernest Holmes. Have we been able to connect yet? Okay. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Would you, Fran, do you mind reading our practitioner emeritus, Fran Daniels, is going to read us the Science of Mind point of view in the monthly theme summary. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
In the Science of Mind point of view, we live in a limitless universe, and our experience of it is only limited by our beliefs and perceptions. Allowing fear to prevent us from following our curiosity into the unknown feeds the belief that the world is a scary place and we are walking our path alone. Leaning into our faith and the knowingness that the divine is supporting and supplying us in all that we do, we are free to seek out the beauty that lies beneath the surface. In our monthly theme summary, curiosity, one of the most basic calls of life, truly is a super curiosity when of the most basic, truly is a superpower. As we move through this month, we'll be pulled by curiosity to look below the surface, look within, release into the world the gifts that curiosity has revealed to us, and then lean into the wonderment of living each day with a heightened awareness of how curiosity ignites our lives. Wow. As we reconnect passionately with our superpower, curiosity, the excitement of what could be, moves us from complacency and inspires our greater yet to be. Amen. And our today's topic, that which lies unseen beneath the surface has always been a mystery to us. For some, it brings forth a feeling of excitement, but for most, the unknown is approached with fear. Today, we will dive through the fear to reveal the wonderment in the unknown and reveal in the gifts it brings. Curiosity is one of the most basic calls of life. It pulls us to learn about the world around us. Wow. Let me repeat that. Curiosity is one of the most basic calls of life. It pulls us to learn about the world around us. Amen. And now, before our illustrious minister comes forth to give us this morning's power message, we'll have a music selection. Superhero.
I don't want to date myself. I don't think I will. But how many of us remember the superheroes in a paper that was called a comic book? And there was a little paper book, not little, but paper book that was the comics. And now we're sat up yesterday and watched the bots. You ever watch the bots? They turn into cars, they turn into humans, they have little heads and they have big arms and big legs and steel bodies. That's the new superhero. Is, to me, is something that kind of is not a good depiction of a superhero, because from looking at this and looking at each other and thinking about what we do, we're not little heads with big steel arms and big steel bodies and big steel legs that turn into cars. We're superheroes because of what we do with who we are as human beings. So maybe some of the rest of you remember when they were just paper folder, little booklets. That, of course, when we were in our 20s and 30s. So that means that right now we're still of an age where we can remember without taxing ourselves. Is that just me? Okay, I got Fran to laugh. So moving on with the superhero attitude. Just this morning, I always put the news on just in case something has happened while we were all asleep, that you go into church and you're all joyful and happy, and you haven't listened to the news and there's something has happened. But I was just interested in what the focus was this morning, and kind of like a superhero comic book or something, this big white balloon that is, I don't know, 7 miles long or something, I don't know, that has been captured. So maybe it will be our next science fiction movie to see what that big white balloon captured and what's inside of it and all that good stuff. So we can look forward to the next superhero being someone that tackles the big white balloon that has floated over our country. I don't mean to make light at all. But after all, this month is February. It has the shortest number of days in it, but I think it has the most superheroes in it. It's Black History Month, Washington's birthday, Lincoln's birthday, Valentine's Day, Veterans Day. So let's look at February as our superhero day. And this month, we're going to feature something about the African American heritage, which I prefer to call it than the Black History Month, but that's just me. And look at our superhero abilities, because at the end of the month, we're going to have our annual meeting, and we're going to be looking at what we did as superheroes in 2022, and you're going to be amazed. I'm surprised. I wasn't amazed. I knew we could do it, but what we did last year was wonderful. So that sets us up for what we're going to do as superheroes beyond this month's focus, for what we're going to do into our futures. So what I'm going to start with this morning, those of you who have joined in Reverend Leora's session, class, whatever you want to call it, on Thursdays, you're going to find, I found, almost like she had some type of insight into what was going to be this month's awakening for us, and what was going to be my awakening into reading and bringing forth information for this month's theme and for today's theme. And my talk title is History. And we're going to be looking at a lot of the things that we went over on Thursday. So we had a lot of different point of views, and that's the joy of religious science, So when you hear these informational tidbits that we're going to talk about today, think back, if you were on that call, to what might have been said on Thursday. If you weren't, there's still time to join in on it. And just to think about, as I mentioned from the beginning, the past things that were in, I start out with the comic books, the past things that were written about in the comic books are so commonplace now that I guess the creators of the comic books, that's why they have moved to the bots, and I'm not sure if that's what you call them, robots that do all these things and they morph into all these different things, because what they started out with was so futuristic, like Dick Tracy looking at his watch and talking. And the watch would tell him things. I don't have one, but there's watches that I'm sure some of you in this room tells you your weight, tells you your respiratory numbers, tells you all these things. When I was reading those, what's Dick Tracy doing with that? That was so futuristic. Seeing the rockets going up, talking about a balloon floating around in the air right now, today, well, it's not anymore, but it was. The things that were in those comic books were like, oh my goodness, how could they do that? Woo, that's wonderful. Woo, that's exciting. Oh, I can't wait to go to the show to see the next phase of this little 5-minute, 10-minute thing that they show in the movies about Flash Gordon and all those people. Now, that's so blasé that my grandchildren, I'm sure, don't even know about those things. I don't think they're into the history of comic books. So that's blasé. But when I compare that to what we were talking about on Thursday, what we're going to look at today, what we're going to think about today, it's so old. It goes back to Aristotle. It goes back before Christ. It goes back to Christ. It goes back to yesterday. It goes back to last month. It goes back to when Ernest Holmes wrote this book. But it's not blasé. It's what is right now today. And I say it's what the future is, because it's principle. It's God. Has God changed ever in all the millenniums that there has been any recognition of it? No. So I said all that, which I didn't even plan to say, but it fits. We're going to move forward, and we're going to start with page 94, and the title of the top paragraph is How We Use the Creative Principle. 2 more words, creative principle, that if you're one that I have somewhere, I have a sheet of paper that has many, 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 many references, words that people identify as God. And it's very interesting, and it's unlimited, obviously, because we can decide how we want to identify God in any way we can, as long as it fits for us. So how we use the creative principle, which is God. If through the law, thought is creative, we cannot say that one thought will create while another will not. Don't ever let anyone tell you that how you speak to God is not correct. In an extra. No one can tell you how to speak to God. Also, as we will go along, It is up to you as an individual expression of God to recognize your selfness in the fullest capacity that you can, because as with Thursday, we got into these discussions about words, believe, belief, trust, God. What do you know? What you don't know? Can you know what you don't know? All these things are God expressing itself, and you, myself, as an individual, thank God that we are within a realm. You wouldn't be here in this room, or you wouldn't be on Zoom, or you wouldn't be maybe at home just reading to yourself, perhaps The Science of Mind, perhaps another type of religious book, to answer these questions that we have, that we tend not to bring out into words because some of them are unwordable. For me, I don't know how to say it because I don't know it yet, but I know an awful lot about what I know, and so do you. So we're going to move on here. We must admit that all thought is creative. Not some people's because they dress a certain way, or they wear a certain collar, or they speak a certain language, or they walk a certain way. All thought is creative. That includes every single one of us, according to the impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. What do you put the most emphasis on? What do you put the most conviction on when you're thinking about something? Do you put the same conviction and emotion toward, we'll pick something that we all have within us, and that's love. Do you put the same thought and conviction behind and through and feel and understand and accept your love of broccoli as you do your love of yourself, or your love of your spouse, or your partner, or your neighbor, or the person that you see in the grocery store that maybe woke up on the wrong side of the cash register that really doesn't feel like talking to you? That thought is creative according to the impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. And that would be a really interesting debate, because some might say, well, I love everything and everyone equally. And then one might say, well, what in the world are you talking about broccoli compared to how I feel about my spouse or my partner or someone in my life? It's good food for thought. At least we're going to think about it. Our theory is that the medium is a universal simultaneously. Let me start again. Our theory is that medium is a universal, got to stop there because universal is capital U, which means God, is simultaneous presence. What does simultaneous mean? Always, same time, presence. And in this presence, capital P, all live, and this is in italics, that whatever is known at one point in it, capital I, is known at all points instantly. Sometime you think, do you think like I think? Because I'm owning this. I'm the only one that knows that. I'm the one that thought about that. And it turns up for me, it just, I'm kind of funny about weird stuff, but it turns up to me. And I think back years ago when my sister, my mother, and my father and I went to Death Valley in Arizona, Nevada, California, it's like it's 120 degrees on a normal day. You know, it's really, really hot. We decided we would go there. And of course, we thought it would be so few people because we're special. We thought about who goes there, who goes to that place. Couldn't hardly get a room. Thank God we had reservations because other people instantaneously had the thought to go to that place. And that shows up for me. I don't know if it shows up for you in your life, but does that happen to you? Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it so well. And then you talk to somebody and you want to share this wonderful idea you had and you want to share what you did so wonderfully. And then they'll say, oh yeah, I did that last week. Okay. Does that shoot you down? Depends on who you are. I'll admit, sometime I think I'm the only one that knows something. And then when somebody tells me that they know it too, sometimes the old ego takes a shot in the foot, But basically, if one person knows something, it's because the God within them has shown up and expressed it somehow to them. So therefore, since that being is not the only one on this planet, you guarantee that somebody else knows what you know. Maybe not interpreting it in the same way, but we all know everything instantaneously in our own spiritual world. So if we, practicing the principle in Los Angeles, declare the truth about John Smith, who lives in New York, or at any other place in the world, the speaking of his name draws the law, God, into the vibration of his personality, his individuality. Mentally, physically, spiritually, he is now in it. He is now in God. We have, so to speak, turned into the keynote of his being. This being is also at the center of our being. Therefore, the mental work is done in our being for him, but it must and does operate through law, which is God. This law is subjective. All that first paragraph, page 94, how we use the creative principle. Know for sure, without turning on the TV, like I did this morning, that somewhere in the universe, someone has had, because it's past, an intention with this, however many feet this white thing is that they're managing to argue about. Why didn't you shoot it down 2 weeks ago? Did you know it? Why didn't you shoot it last week? Why did you let it float across Canada? Why did you let it float across Northern California, Southern? I guarantee you that at some point, obviously, someone had an idea about how this white balloon was going to work. Somebody else had an idea to have the equipment built that would find this white balloon floating around. The one that decided to do it thought, that's original, I'll do that, but nobody else will know about it. Obviously, somebody else knew about it because they had the equipment to see it, to recognize it. And now they're going to have the equipment to examine it. And that's a big deal. Think about your life. Think about how we use the creative principle. Who do you think about? I said broccoli compared to partner or husband or wife or checkbook or your children. Same principle. How do you think about your life? The creative principle within you. How do you use what's in there in order to be the highest and best that you can? And who's to tell you that you are not doing that? It's within you. Do you have the courage to look within to your creative principle within? We just went through the science of mind principles. There are many other religions that they don't even change these words. They might have, I say they don't change these words, but they have different words about their creed, about how they want to live. And that's according to, I'm talking about religious beliefs. Basically, we're all saying the same thing. This is about an organization, but yet it's about an individual. So again, reversing back to Thursday, the thing is, when you get a group of people and you allow each of us to express who we are, what we know, how we come to what we know and come to what we are and who we are, it is very, very, very important to listen without prejudice, to listen without upmanship, to listen to the choice of perhaps something's being said that I really didn't know, or that I knew that I'm going to think about differently. So that's what I like about this particular week. The next segment of the message under history is no confusion, no confusion. And from the Science of Mind, page 157-4, we look at the fourth paragraph, and there's a lot between 154 and 157, so you won't have to move your book much if you're following along. So 157-4, it's no confusion. It's just giving us some titles here. And this is in the section of faith. That's another word that we play with, that we express. Yes, I have faith. You got faith. All God's children got faith. Yes. To what degree? To what degree? Not you, not all God's children. You. What degree? And it starts with, history has recorded many instances of healing through faith. This is an undisputed fact, yet we cannot believe in a divine power, another name for God, that responds more quickly to one than another. That's what was said prior. We are compelled to see that prayer is not an end of itself. You can pray until you turn blue in the face, till you got to unlock your breath and take another breath. It is a means to an end, and it doesn't accomplish anything unless you have faith, unless you know, unless you trust, unless you believe. Like the practice of the science of mind, it is a way. It is a way to what? Where are you going? Where are you starting at? Where are you trying to get? What is the end? For me, there is no end. It's a continuous journey, a search. The principle governing faith is that the one praying becomes convinced his prayer will automatically be answered. That's where you get into the question of, what do you believe? Do you have faith? Do you trust? You listen to somebody else. Oh my goodness, they gave a beautiful prayer. What does that mean? It's a beautiful prayer. You have a beautiful prayer within. You recognize that that's a beautiful prayer. That doesn't mean that you stop continuously blessing yourself with what you know and who you are, and you push forward in your own particular personal belief, your own particular knowingness, and your own particular fire in your belly about what it is that you are thinking about, what you are focusing on, and what you are praying for. If you are praying for something, if you say that, if you're praying for something, it tends, and this is just me, it tends to make me think for myself, I don't have that, so I'm going to pray for it. If I think to myself, I'm praying in thanksgiving, I'm praying because I do have it. I can pray to get it. Now that I got it, I can pray to keep it, to sustain it. But yet it's all rolled up into one. You have to believe in your heart when you are speaking your word, this fire in your belly, in your heart, in your head, in your right hand, in your pinky finger. I don't care. It's just an expression. Know and feel that what you are praying for is what is your heart's desire. If you have it, it's wonderful. If you're praying to get it, you got it, but you don't recognize it yet because it already exists, because God is all there is. So therefore, if you've thought about it, it exists, and it also exists in you, even if you don't recognize it. And I hope I'm not confusing myself and confusing you. Jesus announced the law of mind, saying, "It is done unto you as you believe." The universe, capital U, exists by its, capital I, own self-pronouncement, by its own affirmation. It only knows I am, capital letters. It knows nothing else. Nothing else for God to know. Knows everything, knows all, is all. Therefore, wherever prayer in faith touches, oh my goodness, wherever prayer in faith touches, reality prays aright, prays according to whatever the truth is, then, this is in italics, then prayer must be answered. Do we sometimes think that God does not hear us? It's not accurate. It's not the truth. It cannot be the truth because God is all there is. If you're thinking it, if you're saying it, if you're writing it down, if you're putting it on the computer, get it out of your consciousness, get it out of your, if you want to say your mind, and know God knows, God shows. Is there a watch in spirit? Is there a clock to look at in spirit that says, well, they said it like the balloon, well, it's been up there how many days? No measurement. Just accept and release. Accept and release. And I've already, let me see, where are we in time? I'm not going to read all this because I've bird walked off. So I'm going to go to page 150. Okay, now I'm not going to do 159. I'm going to go to vitalizing. Okay, it's on 159. Vitalizing faith. And what I don't cover, you've got the bulletin. You can read for yourself, please, because all this interrelates. So on page 159, 1, 3, and 4, I'm going to highlight those paragraphs. 1, in order to have faith, We must have a conviction that all is well. Tattoo that across your eyes somewhere, that when you look out through them, you see this, especially all is well. What do we see when we wake up in the morning? Oh, doggone it, I woke up this morning. Or do we see, thank God I woke up this morning? Little bit of difference. In order to keep faith, we must allow nothing to enter our thought which will weaken this conviction. If you're holding on to a truth, and I tend to use this quite a bit because I feel it is true. Money and health come up for me in this wiggly waggly world of what we truly believe. Money. If we took this conviction, in order to have faith, we must have a conviction that all is well. If we have that conviction about money, not the general, was it Fort Knox or wherever, money is everywhere. Your own personal money, all is well. Not getting all this anxiety in your life because you don't think you have money. You always have money. And I don't say that lightly. You always have money. Anybody within the sound of my voice, including myself, I think has some point has said, I don't have money. I don't have enough. Enough. See, I stuck enough in there. I don't have enough money. When I got to that point, I thought I had retired. All of a sudden, I don't have any more money. You know what I did? I went out and got a job. It was an awful job, but it was a paycheck. Then I woke up to the skills that I had, and I went back and I did what I used to do. And then I had money again. And sometimes I've squandered that. But I had money. We always have money. You can walk along the street long enough, keep your head down, you'll find a nickel or a penny. You'll get money. It's not the most important thing in the world, but it is important. And I said health. And I have said this before to you, and I will say it again. I had a client who was praying for her partner. He had gotten very, very ill. He must get well. He must get well. He must get well. He got well. And he got well to the point where he could not do anything except be fed, be bathed, be turned in the bed. Her prayer was, he must get well. You see, and you can figure that out for yourself. Have the faith, have the belief, and know what it is. See, there we come back to that word know. Know what it is that you are expecting. Sometimes we're expecting one thing, and it's not exactly what your framework was including. But it will come, because God never says no. We must always allow nothing to enter our thought which will weaken this conviction. If you don't weaken your conviction about knowing what's your highest and best, it's going to be. I can't tell you what your highest and best is. You don't know what mine is. And it varies from 1 minute to the next about particular things, I guess about everything. But have the conviction, have that. And I can't remember which minister it was or what class it was, that the fire in your belly, that knowingness that ownership of what it is that you have decided upon is going to get you through. And it's going to be answered because the God within you knows exactly what it is that you must get. Down to the third paragraph. All sciences are built upon faith principles. That's what we started with. All principles are invisible and all laws accepted on faith. Not all the time, but that's the way it is. No man has seen God at any time, nor has he seen goodness, truth, or beauty, but who can doubt their existence? We've each got a mind. We have physical eyes. If you cannot see with the eyes, which some people cannot, they can feel with their hands, and they have a essence in their hands that expresses the beauty of whatever it is that they want to, quote, see. There are those who cannot hear, but there is a hearing within the senses that they have that allows them to hear. And we can go on and on and on. We must know. We must be safe. We must understand that whatever we have is our truth and that it is different for each of us. So I'm going to move to the bottom here and slow down. Pure faith is a spiritual conviction. It is the acquiescence of the mind, the embodiment of an idea, the acceptance of a concept. What do you accept? What do you accept into your life? What do I accept into mine? And thank God they're going to be different, because we save the world just by our own concepts of what it is that we think are good, that we think are right. They're right for us. And we're one part of God. We're one part of the whole universe of things. So you know whatever concept you believe in or accept for yourself is good. So therefore you're adding to the goodness of the universal allness. We shall often need to know, in italics, that the truth which we announce is superior to the condition we are to change. In other words, if we are speaking from the standpoint of the Spirit, then there can be no opposition to it. That's in italics, and it's got an exclamation mark. Don't doubt yourself. Do not doubt yourself. There's some other references here. I'm going to have him start the song Hero, and then I'm going to have Marcia come up and read. And we may be a few minutes over because we started a few minutes late, but would you start Hero for us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Today's reading, African American Heritage Month, Week 1. The 1950s was an era of transformative pushbacks on segregation laws. In 1955, Rosa Parks famously refused to give up her seat to a white man on the back of a Montgomery, Alabama bus and was arrested for her defiance. This sparked the Montgomery bus boycott and a national conversation about whether the southern states of America were truly ready for integration. Entered 9 Black students in Little Rock, Arkansas, who volunteered to integrate Central High School in 1957, which up until that point had an all-white student population. The Little Rock Nines venture into desegregation. Their high school is now considered to be the first real test of the Brown versus the Board of Education ruling. Not just that, but Little Rock became a pilot study for how federally granted civil rights hold up when states resist them. Federal troops hadn't been called
hadn't been called into protect civil rights since the Reconstruction era. But all of that changed in the fall of 1957 in Arkansas. Where are the Little Rock Nine now? Ernest Green, he became the first Black student to graduate from Central High School in 1958. He later graduated from Michigan State University and served as Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Affairs under President Jimmy Carter. He is currently a managing partner and vice president of Lehman Brothers in Washington, D.C. Elizabeth Eckford, she is the only one of the nine still living in Little Rock. Elizabeth made a career of the United States Army that included her work as a journalist. She returned to the home in which she grew up in 1974 and is now a part-time social worker and mother of two sons. Jefferson Thomas. He was finally able to graduate from Central in 1960, following a year in which Little Rock's public high schools were ordered closed by the legislature to prevent desegregation. He is now an accountant with the U.S. Department of Defense and lives in Anaheim, California. Dr. Terrence Roberts. Following his historic year at Central, his family moved to Los Angeles, where he completed high school. He then earned a doctorate degree and teaches at the University of California at Los Angeles and Antioch College. He also works as a clinical psychologist. Carlotta Walls Lanier. She is one of the only three of the nine who eventually graduated from Central High when she and Jefferson Thomas returned for their senior year in 1959. She then went on to graduate from Michigan State University and presently lives in Englewood, Colorado, where she is in real estate. Minnie Jean Brown Tricky. Minnie Jean Brown moved with her family to New York City and graduated from New Lincoln High School in 1959. Later, after marrying, she moved with her husband to Canada during the Vietnam War protests of the 1960s, and today is a writer and social worker in Ontario. Gloria Ray Carlmark. After graduating from high school, she went on to graduate from Illinois Technical College and received a postgraduate degree in Stockholm, Sweden. She went on to become a prolific computer science writer and at one time successfully published magazines in 39 countries. Thelma Mothershed War. She went on to graduate from college and then made a career of teaching. She lives in Belleville, Illinois, where she is a volunteer in a program for abused women. Melba Patillo Beals. She is an author and former journalist for People Magazine and NBC and currently lives in San Francisco. And so it is.
Thank you, Marcia. And our future is the heritage, Black heritage of the future. So moving on with the service today, I want you to read through the call to action. I'm going to read the last few lines. Through the medium of mind, man unifies with the universe and contacts a power that can do anything for him that he is able to conceive of doing. Of course, this power will never deny its own nature. And in that awareness, just knowing the truth as we move into prayer, knowing the truth, knowing truth, these key words, they are simply names for God. Knowing truth. In every truth, every thought that we think God is, I am. I am one with the universal allness of it. The truth of that truth is that every single person within the sound of my voice, every single thing, every single inanimate, animate object on this planet is one with God. God expresses in its multiplicity in, obviously, in multiple ways. And in our recognition and our ownership of the oneness of who we are, speak your heart to God. Say what it is that is your heart's desire. Say it with that fire in your belly. Say it with that knowing. Say it with that conviction of truth. Say it with that love and peace and joy and knowingness and the allowance of giving God the knowing, the understanding, the blessing of carrying out what it is that it does. That's a simple, simple prayer. Understand, speak your word, accept your word as truth, and give thanks for the allness and the wonderness of the absolute, for it will bring us exactly what it is that is our heart's desire, whether we know it or we know it. That word know is tricky, but know it and it is done. And knowing that this is the truth, again, that knowing that it is the truth, I release my words into the heart and the law and the allness of God. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. So, Fran, I'll let you rest, or do you want to come on up and do the rest of this for us? Thank you.
Very briefly, I'd like to remind everyone that we have our annual meeting, which will begin February 26th, and you can come into the sanctuary and be a part of it, or you can visit on Zoom. That's February 26th. Please mark your calendars. And just to remind you about Reverend Leor's class on Thursday. And let's see, what kind of peace with money is. If there is a slightest subconscious feeling that maybe money is dirty, maybe it is evil, maybe you shouldn't have much of it, money will know it and will oblige your attitude. Money will stay away from you. How can a child of the infinite have lack? If you have the right understanding with money, you should take the vow of wealth. I swear I'm through with poverty. I swear I am through with poverty. Health, joy, and prosperity for you and for me. And that's by Frederick. I won't try the last name, better known as, Eichenbacher, Reverend Knight. I should know that's by Reverend Knight. Okay, let us join together and give thanks for this wonderful, wonderful time that we've had together, for the inspiration, for the joy, for the love, for the support of that truth that sets us free. That truth is God is. That truth is God and I are one. That truth is I am spirit, individualized expression in this universe. That truth is I am healthy, wealthy, loving, and wise. That truth is all the good in this universe is mine now. So as we go forth this week, we go forth knowing that right where we are, God is, and that we are divinely guarded, guided, connected, and protected. For right where we are, God is. And that is so good. Giving thanks for this knowledge, please affirm with me. And so it is. So we let it be. Amen. And this concludes this morning's service. Thank you for attending. And here in the sanctuary, we will do the peace song.